Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to All Aboard in 2024. My name is Kim Petsko. I am the marketing director here at Sync Systems, and I'm also the regular moderator of this series that we do on a regular basis regarding the onboarding and implementations process for our software solutions. And every now and then we'll spice it up a little bit depending on the seasonality or anything going on. And this time around, we really wanted to talk about 2024. The summer season is almost over. I am very excited about that because that means that summer camp season is done and we can go on to a regular rotating schedule for school. But with that comes the fall which brings pumpkin spice lattes, tailgating, and of course, thinking about your upcoming plans for the new year. How are you going to get your business to grow to the next level? And what in your tech stack do you need to take your business to that next level? That's what we're here to talk to you about at Sync Systems. So many of you who are on this call today already know a lot about Sync as a platform. You've seen some of our demos, and you might be wondering about one of the hardest things that comes across when making a software decision, and that is the actual change of the software. Let's be honest, this is a big change. And having to do that switch over with the wrong team could be catastrophic. That is why at Sync Systems, we invest so heavily and put so much care into our onboarding and implementations process, and why really the biggest experts on our team happen to be those who are on the panel today. So I'm very, very excited, and I'm always very humbled to talk to our operations and implementations team to learn more about their process and share that process with all of you. So let's also do a little bit of housekeeping, of course. So the number one question we always receive is this recorded? We know you're busy, you got a lot of other stuff going on. So yes, this is recorded. We will be sending a recording out to everyone who is registered after the call. If you do we did receive a few questions, and we tried to answer those questions in the webinar, but of course, if anything else comes up, please let us know as soon as you can, because we do want to make sure that you're on board for 2024 at Sync Systems. So what we're going to do today, we're going to do an overview of Sync and what it means for your 2024 plans. Brett will be walking you through the onboarding and implementations process and our project management discipline. Then we'll also be discussing accounting and finances. Bonnie will be discussing the data transfer process, and Darren will be discussing all of our training processes, and we'll end with the big questions. I, of course, forgot to introduce our panel. So we have Brett Kirkland, our Vice President of Training and Implementation, someone I've been lucky to know for a while now, about 3 years. I remember a lot of those fun conference meetings that we used to have. Then we have Bonnie Ferreira, our implementation operations manager, total wizard when it comes to data. And Darren Isaac, our senior project manager. He knows the ins and outs of Sync and has helped so many people get onboarded into our solution in a way that is very supportive and empathetic to their needs. So thank you to our panelists for taking time out of your incredible busy schedule today.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
So first, let me just start sharing if you're considering Sync Systems, you are really definitely making the right choice with us, not to gloat or anything, but we are the largest solution in the CAM industry that's dedicated to community association management. We have over 550 association management companies, over 27,000 homeowners associations, and well over 3 million homeowners served. And our onboarding implementations team is really the people who put you in those good hands with our onboarding process. They have actually a 99.8% efficiency rate when it comes to getting projects done on time, and they will be talking to you about how they do that. So you might be considering, how can you actually get started in 2024 with a best-in-class software solution? I know that many of you have seen our mobile first efficiencies, the amazing things that we can do with our payment solutions and our accounting, but how can that actually be part of your plans for 2024? Well, it really is possible for you, and it's because of a lot of the enhancements that Brett and his team have made to onboarding and implementation in the past few years with respects to data migration, support, and account management. So Brett, I'm going to turn it over to you right now. Can you give everyone here an overview of some of the biggest key enhancements that you have made to our process since joining Sync?
Sure. Can you hear me okay? Make sure I didn't mess up my mute button again.
Yep.
Yeah, so some of these are specific to the implementation and training team. Some of them kind of speak more to the Sync organization at large. We are all one team. I would say the biggest, most impactful, far-reaching change we've made on the implementation side is to really treat the data transformation or the data migration, getting data from old systems into Sync, kind of as its own process. And we've built a whole team just to focus on that exclusively. And just because it's such a big part of what we do. We've even gone so far as to hire senior level developers as part of the product team to continue to focus on building teams and really just treating that as the special part of the project that it is, instead of asking a project manager or somebody to handle all that on top of everything they already do, or worse, instead of just asking customers to do that. There are some companies like ours, or that aspire to be like us out in the industry, that would just give you spreadsheets and tell you to go ahead and fill them in and load them up yourself. And so building a big data operation is probably the biggest change we've made on the implementation side. And Bonnie will speak more to that as we go. We really blown out our support team. Build out is a better word, probably than blown out. Very robust team. Support integration tools built right into Sync. So it's a click away to file a question and have a very large team available to answer questions. Within the implementation team, we've built a specific support team too, because even before you're in support, you might have a question about how Sync works. We'll talk a little bit more about this in a minute. But once you've gone live with Sync, the implementation is still going. And so you're going to have questions along the way too. So we've built an entire implementation support team just to handle that, to make sure people are getting their questions answered very quickly and well. And finally, on the account management side, that's each customer has an account manager assigned to their account that's tasked with your success, helping you know what's going on with Sync, what new things we're bringing to the table, new features, modules, new ways you might not know how things are working, bringing experience from other customers to the table to make sure that every customer has the benefit of all of our customers. Kim showed that slide a minute ago. We've got over 500 companies. We gain a lot of knowledge that way. It could be hard to know what else is going on. So we have an account management practice to make sure we funnel all that information back to you so that you're getting to take full advantage of the vast experience that Sync has.
I love it. Thank you. And I will say we also have a webinar. If you go to our YouTube channel, we have a webinar that's features our account management and customer support team. So you can also get to learn that process too. It's very important. And I can tell you as a marketer, I have so many pieces of a tech stack, for CRM, for email marketing, for ABM, everything. And one of the most frustrating things for me is you'll have this amazing onboarding process, and then nothing happens. And then they're like, thanks for paying the bill. We'll never speak to you again. And that does not happen at Sync. We are SaaS, but we are also very focused on the service. So it's definitely incredible that we have such a great account management team that helps you at the end. Brett, why don't you give us a general run through of what the roadmap to Sync looks like and our team structure and methods when it comes to project management and getting someone onboarded and transitioned into Sync.
Sure. So what we're looking at here is a high level roadmap. I would call this maybe the 10 to 5,000 foot level view. We go all the way into the ground level once we get in detail. Darren will speak to this a little bit later. We have very detailed project schedules that go to the task level of what's happening. If we zoom out and take a big picture look, these are the basic building blocks, if you will, of how the implementation process works. In practice, some of them overlap. These aren't necessarily drawn to scale, but this tells us the big pieces that are happening. So it all starts with discovery. Most of you are probably kind of in that mode right now. This starts, in the sales process of learning about you, what your requirements are, your needs. From a project perspective, this is where we want to meet your specific implementation team. I mentioned we've got a detailed blueprint of a project schedule, and we know what we're doing, but we want to tailor that to you. So early in the process, we want to tweak that and make sure that it fits exactly what we're doing for your situation. That's where we get into setting up the database and just learning more about you. At that point, we're going to gather information. We're going to meet with you to do a data review where we learn about where your data is, where it is, how to access it, things like that. And Bonnie will speak more to that, but that's how we engage our data team. Then we progress to, with the information that we've learned, we're going to go ahead and start setting the system up. During that discovery process, we'll be doing things like gathering sample financial statements, things of that nature. So when we set the system up, we're going to go ahead, we're going to get it set up to match how you do your accounting, make sure our reports are delivering what you're accustomed to and more. And basically just getting the system configured and ready to operate to meet your specific circumstance. Then we want to get data. Now, again, these overlap. We'll start the data process and asking questions early, but once the system's set up, we're going to go ahead and get it pushed in, moving data out of old systems and into Sync. Of course, with the proper quality checks along the way. Training, we'll talk more about this. Training is something that happens all the time, but there is also a very specific part of the project where we do the formal classroom training, if you will, where we go through a planned curriculum on how to learn everything. Ultimately, we're then going to transition and we're going to go live with Sync. So we stop using the old system, start using Sync. Stop paying out of old places and start paying out of Sync. And so collecting bills in Sync. So we're stop using the old one, start using Sync. That's the go live time. Now, if this were drawn to scale, that go live transition arrow would be just about as big as the 4 arrows you see to the left before it, because once we go live, we actually increase our commitment and our time that we spend with you. At that point in time, we start meeting with you every day. And there'll be a daily call where because once you get your data in the system, even though we've been through training, sometimes things don't totally sink in, no pun intended, until you actually have the data in and you're actually doing your job. We know that, so that's why we're going to start spending every day with you at that point in time for at least a few weeks, where we continue to train on your daily task and how you actually use it, and then have time for open Q&A, because that's when more questions will be coming in, things of that nature. And then after that time period, which is usually about 2 months, honestly, we want to go through 2 reporting cycles. Then finally, we're ready to transition to full support, so to speak. So when you put your questions in, you've got the entire production support team at your fingertips. And that's also when you'll be introduced to your account manager, and they kind of pick up from there to make sure that you're happy for the life of your relationship with Sync, which we hope is forever. Now, I'll just keep going, Kim, because this kind of dovetails So as far as our team structure, I won't read. I'll take a step back and kind of explain the method to the madness here. It's not really madness, but I like to say we do the best of both worlds. So in professional services operations like this, you often find one of two models. You either find a jack of all trades, where one person basically does everything, or particularly with larger companies, you find a model that's a highly matrixed organization, where the different pieces of the relationship are kind of broken down, and there's a different department to deal with for each one of those. There's pros and cons of both of those. And we believe we've taken the pros of both and we've tossed out the cons of both, such that we do have the size and scale to be able to have a highly matrixed organization. So we have experts in various areas. We already talked about that a little bit, but within the implementation and training team, we have a team of accounting experts. So they have deep accounting backgrounds. They also have deep backgrounds in sync. So we'll talk a little bit more about each of these as we go, but they know how to talk the talk with your accounting folks. We also have a data operations team, which Bonnie will talk a little bit more about as we go. We've already spoken a little bit about that, but they're dedicated to the art and science of getting data out of old systems and getting it into sync. We also have a team of professional trainers. So everybody at Sync is training all the time. We'll touch on that a little bit more later as we go. But so training is always happening, but there's also some very fixed points in time where we're doing, classroom training, very structured, organized curriculum. Training is a thing in and of itself. How do you get people to retain? How do you teach things the right way? How do you document it the right way? So we've got a team that specializes in that. And we have other supporting roles, different business analysts, custom report developers, things like that. That's a highly matrixed organization. We've got specialties all over the place. That would be really challenging. One of the cons of a model like that would be, it could be confusing for you. It's also lacks some accountability. Like if something goes wrong, who do you talk to? That's where we bring in the best of the jack of all trades world, where we have a project manager. Your project manager is your guide through the entire process. They are the single point of contact that you need, the one throat to choke. If you want to take a slightly negative view of that, you'll never need to choke their throat. But that is one place to go to. So you don't need it. You have the leverage and the benefit of the different areas of expertise, but you don't have to know how they all work. You don't need to know who do I go to when and have a complicated situation. You just go to one person, your project manager. They're going to guide you through all that. I think one good analogy that I heard lately of that I like a lot is it's the conductor of a symphony. So you've got the different musical sections in that symphony, but if they just all went and did their own thing, it probably wouldn't sound so good. You've got the conductor up there that tells everybody what to do and when and keeps everything flowing and makes very nice music. And then on top of all that, things typically don't go wrong with our projects. I mean, we run, smooth shop like Ken was saying. Sometimes things happen beyond our control. Could be beyond our control, beyond your control in the industry. Who knows what it is? We have very deep managerial experience on the team. So even if there's some type of a bump that's beyond our control, we have a very experienced management team. We will get through it. So could be a bump along the way, but we will not fail. We will have a successful implementation. So project management discipline, I'm gonna kick it over to Darren, and who is one of our very most senior project managers, and we'll let him talk a little bit about our approach to that.
Thanks, Brett. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay, excellent. So our project management, our scope or ideal of this, we have sort of a hybrid and agile combination. We know that different customers are going to have different needs. Not every project is going to be the same. So we kind of we customize that based on your requirements and what you need. We have a set amount of tasks, or rather, we have set tasks and subtasks within that, with milestones for each one of those to be addressed. Early in the project, during our kickoff call, we'll have that kickoff will define or identify a weekly time slot for you to have our weekly calls. It's normally scheduled for an hour, and it's at least one call a week. That's where we're going to go through our project, look at our tasks, and get a more specific review on tasks that are past due, tasks that are due that week, and tasks that are due next week. Our idea is that everyone has an idea of exactly what's assigned to who and who is responsible for that specific task. And also at any time, you know exactly where we are within the project. The project software that we use, we're able to assign tasks to you individually. So you will get email notifications regarding that. You're able to add notes and at particular individuals, so they will get an email update if we need to correspond with one another. So that way the project's always moving, tasks are always live, and you don't have to wait until a weekly project call to see where we are. That tool is cloud-based, so you're able to access it from your PC or from any tool that you're able to get online with. I think that really covers it. Did I forget anything?
No, I think you're good. I like how you mentioned that it's adaptable to each, customer. Some customers, they want to see a full view of that entire project schedule in the online system. Other customers say, uncle, just tell me what I need to do and when. And we accommodate both of those.
I love
Exactly. And make that available to you if you want to use it. It's there for you, but we do have those weekly calls where we will actually review those tasks. So if it's just too much during your daily day-to-day work, we completely understand that.
That's awesome. Thank you guys so much for sharing an overview of the department, how it works, and everything regarding our project management discipline. Now we're going to get into some of the nitty-gritty behind all of the different projects that happen in the onboarding process. And one is, of course, super important, and that is the accounting and finances. We know that a lot of people come to Sync Systems because of the incredible speed and efficiency that we have with our accounting process. That being said, when you have an idea that you're starting to change your accounting system, that can seem a little scary, especially for someone who maybe your team of accountants have been in the business for a very long time and are accustomed to a certain system for a very long time. So I'm not exactly sure who's going to be taking this question, but whomever on the panel, can you share a little bit about how our accounting and finance process works within the onboarding stage?
Yes, I can speak to that, Kim. So like we briefly touched on before, we have an accounting team. So there's in the same ways we've got an entire data operations team focused on data. We've got an entire team that focuses on just the accounting setup and the accounting consulting. A lot of experience with most every system that's out there. A lot of deep accounting experience in general, knowing different accounting methods, how it works in different states. We're able to speak the language is something that we say, quite a bit. So we're going to have our accounting people talk to your accounting people to make sure we get things right. Taking a very consultative approach. You may want to keep doing things, using the same methods and the same approach as you always have. Which is, fine. We can adapt that in Sync. Things like, are you, cash, accrual, some combination thereof? Do you have a highly customized shop where you have a unique chart of accounts for every association, or do you aspire to have a single chart of accounts, or as close as you can, that goes across, everything? And this can be an opportunity to change something like that. You might have done things one way in the past, but you were always wishing you could do it maybe a different way. This is a great opportunity to do that. You don't have to change it, but you could. And so that's the type of thing that our accounting team is going to work with you on. It'll start by getting sample financials so that they become familiar with what they can just read your reports and get a really good idea on how you work. And then come to you with questions so we maximize your time. So it's a consultative approach on understanding your business, understanding what you're currently doing, what you're trying to do, and where you want to go, and then translating that over into the most appropriate design of sync, and then showing you how you can do things in sync. I mentioned you might want to keep doing things the same way. That's really speaking in terms of kind of philosophically about, how you handle accounting. We're of course going to want to do things a little bit different in sync in several areas because we bring a lot of efficiencies to the table, and this accounting team can help share what those are, and kind of plug it in and explain, here's how it works in sync, and here's why, and here's the area that's going to help make you more efficient. So very, very consultative approach all along the way.
Awesome. And now it's time to talk about the big question, data. You have a lot of homeowner data, a lot of very personal information, and it's very complex. And, I'm going to be honest, I've heard horror stories of like people who were told by their software company to hire interns to do it for them. Blah. So, Badi, why don't you tell us a little bit about how the data transfer process works and how your team works on that?
Well, we don't have interns here. We take care of it. We help you. So there's several reasons why Sync really stands out as from the competition. And one of those items is the data. It's how we handle data transfers from your existing platform and bring that information into Sync. Our resources, the data team, we really have a data-centric approach. And as Brett mentioned a few years ago, we came up with this unique idea. Hey, have a data team and help our customers get in there and implement faster. And our team is a group of data experts. That's what we do. And our team understands the business and has that technical knowledge. We've worked with almost every property management system, and some of the systems that really aren't property management systems, but people tend to use them kind of in that manner. They attempt to. So Sage and QuickBooks, that really comes to mind. We work with a repeatable process to extract and really transform that data so that we can efficiently load that information into Sync. As you can imagine, and as you think about all the data that's associated with your current system, it's complex set of data sets, right? No matter how you analyze it, who you work with, it's complex. It's more than just moving that content. It's you've got to translate and massage the data to get it from one system to another, because systems aren't the same, which is a really good benefit for Sync because we've got a really great system over here. You'll quickly see some of the benefits of migrating your data with Sync the moment you really start that project. The data integrity, we work with your team to identify where your data is located. So whatever system you're coming from, and some of the data you may not want to bring over to Sync. That maybe an association is no longer one that you manage. So we're not going to bring that over. Either way, we identify the issues, any kind of issues with your team early. And we try to minimize that disruption as we bring over that data. Our data engineers, their skill set is code, is data. And we're a bunch of geeks and that's what we like. We use Python scripts, VBA, SQL, Microsoft Access, Excel. All of these tools we've developed and created to help us translate, grab that data from your system, translate it, and format it into Sync. That really makes it an efficient extract, a whole lot more efficient than what you would normally come across, right? So connecting with your data really helps us to understand your business and focus on that necessary information. And you'll see us pop up from time to time, and we will talk with your group and make sure that once we've translated the data, that it's something that you agree with. And when we do work with your group, it's part of the training that we go through, or that your group will go through, so that you understand how Sync utilizes the data and how it can be set up for your company. And we've got a few steps that we go through, and I'm happy to go and let you know about them. We're pulling the data sets, and in that step, we're really working with your group to make sure that we can access the legacy system that we're coming from. Not every implementation of QuickBooks or GenArc includes homeowner addresses. There's various nuances that we come across. So we work with you guys to make sure that we understand where the data is, and if it's not where we expect it, we'll have you help us get there. Then we get to analyzing the data and finding where your data is, and then scrub it. And we scrub it to make sure that the email addresses are in the correct area, the vendor websites are in the correct location. Sometimes we find that, data has gotten kind of messy. We clean that up for you, which is a really nice perk. Once we get it scrubbed, we get it formatted to make sure that all the phone numbers are set up like they're supposed to be. And we do some more magic scripts. We utilizing that VBA and Python and SQL as needed. And then that last step before the data load includes the review. And this is really where we interact with you as a customer and say, okay, this is your data set. This is what we've cleaned it up, and make sure that it looks correct to you before we load it up into the system. And another reasons why we sit and review that with you is to make sure that the data is correct, but also it serves as a training step so that you understand how it is in sync, as I mentioned before.
I love it.
Yep.
Love hearing about that data, especially when you bring up all the Pythons, MySQL, all that good stuff. All right. So Darren, let's talk about training. It's great that we get the accounting up and running, that we get the data transferred over. But at the end of the day, the team at the association management company needs to know how to utilize these tools. Can you tell us a bit about how your training team works to ensure that a newly onboarded Steam client is up and running with these?
Yes, that's a very important part. Implementation is not successful if you don't know how to use the system once you go live. So we do put a lot behind the training that's needed there. First thing that we do, the training starts very early. From the first project call that we have, a lot of our training will be the setup and the tasks that we're taking care of during that project call. Some of the tasks, we know we want you to get your hands dirty. We want you to touch the system. You're going to be modifying, maintaining this moving forward. So we'll have you share your screen. We'll give you the keyboard and the mouse while we walk you through these processes. Throughout the life cycle of the implementation, that's really what I call an on-hand training or an ad hoc training, because you're touching the system, you're setting things up, and you're seeing how they actually function. In addition to that, we have scheduled formal training, some standard courses that are global, or rather what we call core courses, which are AR, AP, general accounting, things like that, where the processes remain the same. The way you post lockboxes are going to be the same. The way you do bank transfers are going to be the same. But then we'll have individual training for module specific. Your violations are going to be different than anyone else, or your collections, or your architectural requests. So those are more ad hoc and customized for your requirements and your needs. After that, that's during the life cycle of the implementation. Once we go live, at that point, you should be fully trained. We make sure that you've gone through the scheduled training, but still that's, of course, normally theory. Not everything is in the system or live at that point, so things are a little bit different at that time. We mentioned earlier, at our post-go live, once we flip the switch and we're live, for at least the first 2 weeks, we're gonna have a daily call with you. So our post-implementation support team, that's where they walk through those individual tasks with you. We want you to do your bank transfers, do your daily reconciliation, post lockbox every day, and we're actually doing it with you. You're going to be pressing the buttons and going through the screen, but it makes you a lot more familiar and comfortable with us being there for you for those 10 days.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Darren. And
Sure.
Brett, I turn it back to you for the final things, which is the big question. How long does it take? What do I have to do? How much time is it going to take me? And what do I have to do to be successful? Easy questions. Go for it.
Yeah. So those are some of them are relatively straightforward. And we definitely have some tips for success. We'll touch on some of those here. As far as how long it takes, as you might imagine, that can vary tremendously. We have customers that have one association. We have customers that have 600. Some people are operating in one place. Some people are operating in multiple states. Some companies are actually multiple companies have acquired that they've kind of all put together. And so it can vary a lot. It can vary depending on what banks people are using. Are they doing a bank change at the same time, which is something that we do a lot. It's almost the rule and not the exceptions. Probably around 50-50 when we're doing bank changes during the implementation. So that can have an influence. Where the data is coming from can have an influence. Do we have access to it? Can we get to it? Like, there's a lot of things that vary. So that's a giant disclaimer for it varies. That said, we just put a kind of a stake in the ground and find your average median implementation, like our starting point, our stake in the ground. We're looking at a 90-day from the time we start to the time we stop using the old system and start using sync, the go live that we've been talking about. 90 days is our benchmark that we start from. We can trim that down sometimes. Honestly, it's a little rare to trim that down. Like, the stars kind of have to align to get that, faster, just because of the things we've been talking about with the setup and the data training. And it just, it takes a minute it takes 90 days to do all that. Sometimes we can trim it down if we need to, if we're in a if there's a business condition where we have to, or something like that. Sometimes it expands a little bit further. It's not uncommon for it to go to 120 days instead of 90. So and then there's some outliers along the way. Now that's just like we've been saying, that's the time to start, time to go live. The implementation project is going to be another 2 months on the back end of that on average. Again, that can go up and down. The rationale being we want to go through 2 reporting cycles. So once you've stopped using the old system, started using sync, with calls to walk with you hand in hand on your daily tasks, really shown you, essentially how to produce, financials that first month out of sync. Then we want you to do it while we're still there. We might not be meeting daily at that point. It's probably more like weekly, maybe bi-weekly. At that point, but you're kind of doing it, but we're still right there through another reporting cycle. Now you've been through it twice. You're autonomous, ready to go on to support. So if you zoom out, take a look at the entire project. That's about 5 months, more like 3 months to go live, and a couple of months of extended, intense support after that. As far as customer commitments, I kind of put that hand in hand with what it takes to be successful, things to think about. And one thing that really stands out with that is to be successful, it's oftentimes more about commitment than it is about the actual time spent. Now there is time. I mean, full transparency, as you know, if you change systems, there is going to be an investment of time. We make that as small and as easy as we can, but it's still there. But honestly, the harder parts are usually more on the commitment side. And so, like, a tip to success is you want early engagement with stakeholders, and that's across the board. Starting with your own staff. Big tip for success: make sure the people that are actually going to be using the system are involved in this process that we're going through right now, that they know, and they know the benefits and why, and they can be excited about it, just like you are. That makes for a much better implementation when everybody's bought in, and that extends out to boards and homeowners too. Communicate with them, let them know that this is happening, let them know why, kind of build up the excitement. That helps a lot. embracing, we've talked a lot about training, kind of embracing the fact that some things are going to change for the better. Every process won't be exactly like it was in the old system. You wouldn't want it to be. You want it to be different because you want it to be better, more efficient. And so that does mean that things change some. And, most of us are not super comfortable with our operations that we've gotten used to over the years changing. But embracing that and knowing it's going to be there and knowing that it's going to be better, and then a commitment to learning. So we're going to pour in training resources. Every person on our team is going to be teaching and training. There's going to be training courses. There's going to be, video resources that are out. There's going to be all kinds of information and tools and people available to help. On your side, big, tip for success is embrace that. Embrace the learning. Take it seriously. And start early, often. Appointing stakeholders is another one. Most notably on the accounting side, and we've talked a lot about our accounting experts that work with your accounting experts. Really important to have somebody who knows the accounting system and knows the methodology and knows the approach and can work with us to help get it set up. There may be scenarios where you don't have an accounting resource. Sync has an accounting services department that we work with very closely a lot for folks that don't. And then we implement with, our own accounting services team on your behalf. So if you don't have accounting resources, that accounting lead, I would say talk to us, and Sync Accounting Services might be a really good option for that. Somebody needs to kind of take point on that. Having a project lead helps if possible. And certainly having stakeholders in each area, like an accounting lead, property management lead. It might be the same person, but somebody who is accountable and responsible can work with our team to drive that through. I'll come back to that one in just a second, because that gets into how much time does it take question. Ownership for data. We've mentioned we handle the technical part, but we're going to be asking you a lot of questions. Where's the data? How do we get to it? What does this mean? And just understanding and owning that. And Bonnie mentioned, one of the steps is to review data. We make that easy for you, but somebody still needs to do it, and just a commitment and ownership for making sure that the data is right as it goes in. Those are just early commitments and mindsets heading into the project that help a lot. We do some cleanup, like Bonnie mentioned, but oftentimes the best approach is to clean things up in the old system. It's a great opportunity to do some house cleaning before we do the implementation. If you have duplicate vendors, outstanding, ledger charges and things, like the more that can be cleaned up in advance, the easier the data transformation is, the easier the implementation is moving forward. So those are just a few things. As far as the time spent, going back to that stakeholder point, for a project leader, somebody's going to be actively working on a project and kind of taking the lead on a big area like accounting, could be pushing 20-30% of their time, for the project, and that ebbs and flows. I mean, there might be some weeks where it's a little bit more. There'll be other weeks where it's a little bit less, maybe even nothing. Certain weeks it kind of goes up and down. But if you needed to just put a stake in the ground and just so you know how to plan, if it's a project leader, the person that's in charge, 15 to 30% of their time. If it's other stakeholders that are kind of in a just supporting role, then you're more on the lower end of that. Maybe it's 15% of their time to contribute in the areas where we need them. And that's going to, they need to be taking their training when they need to, things like that. Again, it ebbs and flows. It might be a little bit more than that some weeks. It'll be less than that other weeks. So it is a commitment. I mean, 15 to 30% of your time, depending on what role you're in. It's a lot, on top of day jobs, but it's not overwhelming. I mean, it's certainly manageable, and we make it as easy as it possibly can be, and help spread that out. Again, it's more the mindset, knowing, hey, I've got this change coming and I'm going to embrace it and participate in it and help get it going. That is more than half the battle. The actual time spent is not huge after that.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I think it is really important. And I like how we're transparent in our timing, but we're also transparent in our, like, you know, the tips to be successful in transitioning your software. You know, I love to hear all of that experience and wealth of knowledge that we can provide. Well, with that, my friends, we are at the end. So, like I mentioned in the beginning, we will be sending out a recording for today. Please do reach out to us if you have any questions. Thank you so much to our incredible panel for joining today. And thank you to all of you for coming. So thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.